So I'm talking to Pam and to Jeff. Jeff's from Chatfield. Pam, obviously, Riverland instructor. And just showing a piece here where at Albert Lee we have what we call an individual growth plan, something that we need to work on professionally during the course of the year to show our growth. Uh, Really, my focus to kind of avoid some of the reading was to look at some of the really important topics in our college algebra class, such as simplifying algebraic expressions using exponents, radicals like terms, simplifying algebra or solving algebraic equations, for example, complex fractions, not something that's covered as much, but obviously important as they get into calculus. Determining equations for circles, basic things like determining x and y intercepts of equations. Um, I could graph a function using transformations. Would you guys agree that, I mean, like these are all things that we want kids to be able to do proficiently? And when they can't, it frustrates you, right? Yeah. And so what I noticed that I was getting kids to do this well on their exams, but then what about, 2 weeks later? And so what I did is I started to kind of track that. And what I did is I started to give these formative assessments. And so here's a formative assessment that I gave, and it's spiral. So basically, these 8 questions, you would see a similar 8 questions to these later on. Now this first one, I know it was maybe a little bit too difficult, but I just at a college algebra level, I wanted the kids to be able to handle the negative exponents and be able to handle an exponential or exponents that involve multiple steps. Number two, not just factor once, but be able to factor, multiple times. That's a skill that I felt was very important for when they're working with polynomials. Number three, simplify the following expression. I want them to be able to work with complex fraction because when they work with the formal definition of the derivative in calculus, that's a must. Number four is just a linear equation, but they just need to multiply through by 6, right? Number five, you can see this x squared plus, minus 3x plus 2. They need to factor that and then either number line test or maybe use a graphical method, see where it's above the graph. So nonlinear inequalities really are something that the kids seem to end up struggling with. Determine center and radius for a circle, using completing the square. And then here you can find, find x and y intercepts for the following. That seems like that's basic, right? But you guys know what kids do when they say find the x and y intercept. Some of them turn that into slope intercept form, and they tell me the y intercept, and they can't tell the x intercept. Why can't kids look at that and say, obviously the x intercept is negative 15, and the y intercept is 5? And it drives us nuts, right? Or even like writing an equation for a line. I mean, these are things that kids have had since they've been algebra 1, intermediate algebra, algebra 2. They do it over and over again, and they can do it on the test, but then what about 2 weeks later? Well, I noticed if they can't do it 2 weeks later, there's no way they're doing it right on the ACT. And to me, I guess I'm not as embarrassed by number 3, but I'm embarrassed by number 7. Would you guys agree? Okay, so what I said is, you know what, we're going to cover these multiple times throughout the year. Like this could maybe count as a warm up at the beginning of class, or maybe on a day where we have a review day where they're going to work on a study guide. I'm going to throw this at the beginning of class, see how they do. So I track this kind of throughout the year to some degree. I called it 2.1 and 2. So this is really just chapter 2, and point 1 was just kind of my first attempt during that chapter. So you can see during chapter 2, I did 2 runs at this, hoping that they would actually improve. But so I'll just look at kind of one of the results here that we see. But I'll check on the 4.1. So that's the actual test. But I'll look at the results here. So I looked at the results, and I'm going to pause this to make sure we don't see any names that pop up on this. Okay, so here's question 1. So the students went in and checked it out. So they actually question 1 had to do with exponents. 91% of kids were getting the exponent 1 correct, which yeah, similar to number 1 document, so they had improved with that exponent thing, and which I was really happy with as they move forward. But question 3, that was a question regarding complex fractions. You can see we're still shooting at 63% on that one. That was frustrating to me to see that we're still just shooting at 63%. Question number 4, 65%. That was dealing with solving an equation, and you had to there were fractions in it, so you had to multiply through by a constant. Question number 5 was nonlinear inequalities. Still, we're saying 78%. Um, but look at some of these. When we get to a question number 8, question number 8 was write an equation for a line. We are still at 57% competency. 57% competency. And as I'm trying to grow as a teacher, which some days I'm like, I have no idea how to teach anymore. But I'll actually pull up question number 8 so we can look at it here and we can get a feel. So this is that formative assessment, spiraled through. And here's question number 8. Find the equation for a line that's perpendicular to y equals 2x plus 1 and passes through 6, 1. So it's sitting in slope-intercept form. They just have to identify -1/2 as the slope and then use that. And maybe your classes are different than mine, but I'm going to tell you that when we do the college algebra paired assessment at the end of the year, the kids do well on that. They do fine on that. We're in the ballpark with other people. But when you ask them this without having done some review within the previous few days, they make mistakes that we say are unacceptable. And I'm telling you, if they can't do it 2 weeks after we've covered it, then there's no way that they're doing it right on the ACT. And that means that 57% got it right. So 43% of kids are getting this wrong come the ACT. I'll end with this. We did some ACT review, and I looked at our college algebra kids, and I looked at our regular track algebra 2 kids. Here's the question. Pam Rubel gives her grade in the class for the semester by averaging the 4 highest test scores. So if Kevin scored a 90, an 80, a 70, a 60, and a 50, what would his final grade be? So the kids had to knock off the 50 and average the rest. In regular track algebra 2, only 33% of kids got that right. In the college algebra class, only 66% of kids got that right. And just note that that is not an 11th grade level problem. That is a 7th or 8th grade level problem where kids are taught to average. This is a reality that I see. This is a reality that I'm continuing to investigate. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to respond to it, but I know I'm embarrassed by it. And all I can do is continue to try to roll with it.